Hey everybody, welcome back to week 2 of Plantober. If you are watching this video, hopefully it's because you've watched the previous video, which I will put up here. I think this is the side that's going to go on, where I talked about the first week of planning for NaNoWriMo for this year, or for whenever you're writing a book. I just jiggled the table, so I'm sorry if you shook them. So week 2 is all about delving into our synopsis a little bit more, our characters a little bit more, and then doing something fun by starting a Pinterest board. Now the Pinterest board is not 100% needed, but I find it's really helpful just to get the excitement levels up and also to help visualize characters and places. So don't skimp out on it. If you don't have a Pinterest account, that's cool. If you do, then you can use it. So task 1 for this next week of October is going to be to flesh out our synopsis a little bit more. So last week we did a very short, brief synopsis where we just wrote out a quick idea for the book, and I said to do it in like a few sentences, maybe a paragraph, and hopefully you did it and you managed to write down the story that you want to work on. And this week I'm going to ask you to work on that synopsis a little bit more by giving it a start, a middle and an end if you haven't already. Just to give you a bit of guidance on this, which is what these videos are all about, you're going to want to come up with the start of your story. So, you know, you're going to want to maybe name your main character if you've not done that already, because you should have done. Decide how the character is going to be introduced. Explain what the goal of your main character is, and also what the conflict of the story is going to be. So that's the start. The middle is going to be a quick description of the complications that arise and the tension of the story, and also maybe deciding what the character has to overcome. And then the end of your synopsis is going to be how the conflict is resolved. Hopefully this sounds like something you can do and something you can work on. It's something that I am going to have to decide for my own. Sorry, my dog's just sighing very loudly in the background because she's sick of me. It's something that I'm going to have to decide on for my own story, because I just have a kind of an idea about what the story is, but I haven't really set out the start, the middle and the end. So I'm definitely in the boat with you this week, and I'm happy to answer any questions and help in any way that I can, so don't forget to leave me comments or DM me on Instagram or whatever you want to do. But yeah, this is probably, I think, the most challenging thing, because we are basically deciding on the full story this week. But if you can get through this week, then you'll be fine. The second task for this week is a little bit of fun, but also could take a bit of time, so do sit down and maybe do a half an hour or an hour chunk a couple of days this week, and that is doing character sheets. So I've got an example of a character sheet on my phone. The writing app that I'm using at the moment actually has it built in, which is great, and I know that Scrivener also has it built in. But if you're not using anything and you're just using Word, you can actually find character sheets online that you can fill in. And I know that there are some books, you know, like workbook things that you can get from Waterstones or online, please don't use Amazon, to fill in to help you do your story. So I'd always recommend those, and if I remember I will put them in the comments, like links to places. But just for the sake of this video, I'll just run through some of the character sheet questions that I have. All of these prompts are kind of for writing fiction and fantasy stories, but you can tweak the questions and all that jazz as much as you want. It depends how much detail and depth you want to go into. Some pretty important points, I think, for any story are strongest personality traits, weakest personality traits, the needs of the character, and character's ambitions. If you want to throw in things like parents' names, siblings' names and descriptions, and obviously age is pretty important. Physical appearance is pretty important, because obviously you want to be able to describe your character throughout and keep it consistent. Some more fun things to include, because this will really help you round out a character and help you write believable characters, is things like favourite sayings, interests and hobbies, any pets that they may have had growing up, their level of education, any religious beliefs that they have, their financial situation, any future plans that they have, possessions that they may hold dear to them, how your character handles conflict, things that hold your character back or things that stand in your character's way, any prejudice that your characters may have, because we aren't writing great people all the time, so you have to really broaden your mind and think about how your character may not be a good person as well as being a good person, and their philosophy on life and what their family life is like. These can just be brief answers to questions, or you can write a paragraph for each question. It really depends. Obviously for age you're not going to write a paragraph unless you have some sort of like Merlin character who ages backwards, in which case write a paragraph about it. Something that's super important is also, whilst you have a character sheet, I think also having a section where you can just write a timeline for your character, so things that happened to them throughout their life that may have been important. So for example, my main character is somebody who has kind of grown up in a very comfortable family setting, but at the age of, I think I'm going to make it around 9 or 10, she witnesses her sister's disappearance. So that's like a pivotal part in my story. So I really feel like having a timeline written out that I can reference to later so I don't forget is really going to help me with everything. So definitely write all these things down, keep them in a Word document or in a notebook that you can reference easily. This sort of thing can really help you keep your story on the right path. It also makes it easier to write distinct characters and not have all your characters morph into one person basically. Because obviously you want your characters to be distinguishable and original. Again, I will put links to character sheets and whatnot in the description below. Task number 3 is a pretty fun one in my opinion, and something that I always like to do for all the writing projects that I do, which is to create a Pinterest board, or just kind of like a scrapbook if you want to keep it more IRL. And that's just a great way to help you visualise the world that you're writing. I particularly like to write fantasy based things, so I like to imagine worlds and places and people that are very far away from my reality, so creating Pinterest boards is super helpful. So whilst I don't really have one set up yet for my current story that I'm working on, which obviously I'm doing with you, I do have an example of one that I've done previously for a steampunk novel that I was writing with a group of people, and that was something really far outside of my comfort zone, and there's so many visuals to pull from that kind of world that I really delved into this Pinterest board, and it really helped me create the world that I wanted to create. So as you can see, I'm sorry that the ring light is reflecting, but I created, there we go, a board which just showed some Victorian-esque fashion and actual places, and just steampunky things and clockwork, which helped me describe the world that I was writing. So it's really helpful. I'm going to share the link to my private Pinterest board for this story so that you can follow it, and if you do make a Pinterest board, please send me the link because I'd love to see it, and I hope that you enjoy doing it. So it doesn't seem like there's much to do this week, but I think that these tasks will keep you busy for the whole week. Once again, don't stress about it, and if you have any questions, ask me, and also let me know how you're getting on, because this is a group thing and I just need people to talk to about it. So until next week, where we will be covering time planning, the 5 points of fiction, and also chapter planning. It's going to be a crazy week that week, so definitely focus on all the things this week, and then you'll definitely be prepared for the week after. Until next time, happy writing, and I will see you again soon.